Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
At age 3, Caesar continues to show cognitive skills that far exceed that of a human counterpart.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show, broadcasting live on July the 21st, and it is yet 9:20. It's not the latest we've ever done a show. I think that was like 11:30, 12, wasn't it?
We did one at 11:30, I believe, because we were both, or one of us was doing something online before, weren't we, or something at a time once.
No, yeah, it was something. It was something to do with that, or a screening that we both were going to, or
yeah,
some. It's not like together because Andrew's in Glasgow and I'm in Sunderland in the northeast of England, so it was something like that anyway. But yeah, I digress. I'm Stuart anyway,
and I'm Andrew. And
coming up on this week's show, we're looking at these couple of films in the I was going to say DVD section, in the cinema section.
Wrong,
they are.
Yeah. We've got the second movie in the reboot of the Planet of the Apes series with Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And we've got a French drama with Grand Central.
Or as I like to call it, the pre-sequel. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, because it's a sequel to the prequel. Because Rise of
the sequel.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes is a prequel to the Planet of the Apes series. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is a sequel to the prequel, so it's known as a pre-sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have issues with that because of the thing of where things come into the story in the other versions and how they're all tied in. I mean, I have all the other films. And I've watched the other films. It's just I don't quite connect all the dots between them, which is what's annoying.
It's, in other words, it's sort of confusing, a bit like the Fast and the Furious series when you actually put them together. They're not in correct order.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on Blu-ray and DVD, or the home release section of this week's show, we're looking at these films.
Yeah, another film in the style of Fast and Furious, talking about that just now, with Need for Speed. We have the animated kids movie where everything is awesome in the Lego Movie. We have a comedy in The Stag. We have a weird Terry Gilliam film in The Zero Theorem. I say that because that's the only way you can really describe his films. We have a film called After Dark, and then we have a weird sort of psychological thriller called The Employer.
I left you in the dark with After the Dark, didn't I?
You did.
It's a thriller.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's a thriller.
I was guessing it would be something dark.
It's a psychological kind of thriller.
Ah, so two of those to round out the show.
Yeah, it's that kind of film. On top of that, we have the Blu-ray and DVD Top 10, TV Movie of the Week, Movie of the Week, the UK Box Office Top 10. But let's kick things off with some movie news.
Yeah, and starting off with a bit of bad movie news, unfortunately. Actor James Garner has passed away. He was 86 years old. A legendary actor was known for a career that spanned TV and movies from as far back as the 1950s, among them characters of hit shows Maverick and The Rockford Files. The cause of his death has not yet been confirmed, but the actor had previously suffered a stroke in 2008, which may have been part of the cause of his death. He's survived by his wife Lois and his daughters Greta and Kimberly.
Yeah, sad news again. We seem to be getting more and more of these announcements every single week. Big actors, not just smaller actors, very big actors who seem to be passing away. So it's always sad to hear the death of an actor if you've grown up with that person, watching their films, etc., sort of like tied to their movies. So
yeah. Well, the thing is, as well, there's also been, I don't have the full details, but there's also been another actor who died, not so well known, but it's the fact that it was announced on the same day, which is a young actress named Sky McCall Bartusiak. I'm not sure how to pronounce it correctly, but she starred in the Mel Gibson movie The Patriot. She was a little girl in that movie, one of the little girl, I think, who never talked and then talked, saying, you know, when Mel Gibson's character was going to go. And she was only 21 and died, and the only thing that's sort of known is that she had suffered from seizures, epileptic seizures during her life, so unfortunately may have been connected to that, and it's a shame that as well someone dying at the age of 21. It's quite sort of awful.
It is. It is. Right, in other movie news, according to Deadline, Universal Pictures have hired Alex Kurtzman and Chris Morgan to oversee the reboot of their classic movie monster franchises. The first of the movies to be rebooted is The Mummy, with the ultimate goal to meld them together a bit like the Marvel Universe.
I heard about this, and the thing is, I think it's quite a nice idea, because, I mean, most of them are Universal, aren't they?
They're all Universal.
They're all. Okay.
Yeah.
So Universal has it all. So it's all going to be in one studio, which is where the issue happens with these sorts of things. So that's an issue that's out the window. It's not going to be a problem anymore. And I think it's quite interesting to try and do this. The thing is, what they're going to have to do then, though, is are they going to have all of the heroes become a kind of basically a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? They're going to have something where the heroes come together, or the heroes appear as well as them all being in the same universe, because you're going to have all things like Van Helsing from Dracula. You're going to have all the other ones. I don't know the other. I mean, obviously you're going to have Frankenstein and the monster. So potentially maybe Frankenstein will be part of the thing, and it's going to end up being a kind of a thing like what they've done with that Penny Dreadful series.
Yeah, maybe the problem with the Universal series, which I see, is the fact that when you look at something like Frankenstein's monster, he's sort of like more like an anti-bad guy. He was never known to be the bad guy because he was created by Dr. Frankenstein, and Dr. Frankenstein was the bad guy in all that. But the way I see they could handle the movie by melding them together is if they look at the template of films like The Monster Squad and sort of like make a more adult version of The Monster Squad, but tweak things around. I know they're supposedly doing a reboot of the Monster Squad, and if Universal get their hands on it, this could be a sort of like a way to try it out to see if it would work with all those monsters together, to see what kind of reaction it would get. And if it doesn't work, well, at least they've tried it out in some kind of form, and then they could just make a Dracula film, a mummy film in this case. It's obviously got nothing to do with the Brendan Fraser mummy movies. This is going to be something more to do with the Universal old-fashioned mummy films, like Boris Karloff in it, etc. Yeah. So they have got a few little avenues they can try.
Well, it's all going to come down to the first one and whether it's successful or not. Because if the first one bombs, that'll be the end of it.
They've got a guy who knows he's got a good writing talent in Alex Kurtzman. So at least they're going with a known writer first to try it out to see if it works. But like you said, if it does bomb, then yeah. Because if you look at the state of horror at the moment, the person who's got it all right is Jason Blum, because his films get released at a very small budget. This is not going to have a small budget. And you look at what actually happened with the director when they tried to get a big budget for a horror film, Guillermo del Toro with At the Mountains of Madness. And his movie supposedly was going to cost something like 160 million. It can't happen with horror. You can't have high-budget horror films. The closest we're getting is World War Z.
One thing I would say with Alex Kurtzman is that he's good at starting things, but once he's done the pilot, move on and get someone else. He's not good at continuing things.
Yeah, he does have a problem in that instance. A piece of news which you won't care about at all, but I do, is Chloe. Yes, Chloe Grace Moretz has joined the cast of Studio Ghibli's The Tale of Princess Kaguya and will provide the voice of the title character. Among the other cast includes James Caan, Mary Steinberg, Darren Criss, Lucy Liu, Beau Bridges, James Marsden and Oliver Platt. The film is set to release later this year in America, no release date for the UK, with the next project being When Marina Was There, set for 2015.
What it's called again?
When Marina Was There.
No, the one before that. The one this is for.
The Tale of Princess Kaguya.
I just wanted to hear you say it again because it's just a weird name.
Yeah, that one was helmed by Isao Takahata. So that was they were released on the same day in Japan with The Wind Rises, which was Miyazaki's final film, and Takahata released The Tale of Princess Kaguya. And the last time they did that was with My Neighbor Totoro and Grave of the Fireflies. So it was a big deal in Japan, and unfortunately that wasn't the case with America release. They're getting this in November. We don't know when we're going to get it, to be honest, because I think Studio Canal or Canal Plus, the French studio, has got the rights, I think, now to Ghibli films. And if that's the case, this will get a proper, decent cinema release, because they're very good at releasing films and handling their movies. So at least it's under a good studio if that's the case.
Well, we'll get into releasing things when we come into the top 10, because there's at least one film in there we'd have to sort of have a bit of an issue about there.
Yep. Next piece of news is Paramount have announced that Before the Fall director Xavier, because we haven't been Spanish, Xavier Gutierrez is in talks to direct a third Ring film. The film is rumoured...
Sorry.
Xavier, has been rumoured since 2010, in which David Luca was set to pen the script. Now, Paramount are looking to start to shoot the film, and David Luca, well, actually, Javier Gutierrez was supposed to be doing the Crow remake. Another director was supposed to be handling the Crow.
Leave the Crow alone. It's a tragic film that's perfect the way it is.
Yeah, this will be the third in the American Ring franchise. It's got nothing to do with, because they stopped having any involvement with the Ring franchise after the first one.
Was
the
that
Americans,
Ringu?
Yeah, Ringu. Because if you want to follow each one, the next one in the Ring series in Japan is Ring Zero. It wasn't actually called Ring Zero, neither Ringu Zero. It was called Ring Zero. So it happened. It was a prequel to the first one. So they're not following that point. They're going off on a different direction, and so they've seen the uprising of these found footage, sort of like low budget horror films, etc. And they're thinking we can bring the Ring series back now.
Well,
yeah, we don't need it.
Well, the thing is that we've got next week we've got more found footage, lost footage stuff, and it's a kids' film.
What, Earth to Echo?
Yeah.
Is that a found footage film? No.
I think it is. From what I've seen of it, it looks like it is.
It reminded me a lot of the J.J. Abrams film.
Super 8.
Yeah, Super 8.
Yeah, well,
it reminded me a lot of that.
It looks a bit like kind of Super 8 crossed with
E.T.
Chronicle.
A little bit of E.T. there as well.
I think, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it's out on Friday.
Yeah.
Final piece of news is Vin Diesel has revealed that he will be shooting a third XXX film at the end of the year in the Philippines. Diesel has also revealed that he would like Katy Perry to star alongside him.
Okay, not bothered about Katy Perry. I mean, she might be a good actress. You never know. I've not seen her acting anything, so I have nothing against her trying. I'm actually would like to see another Vin Diesel Triple X, because I really enjoyed the first one. I know it's cheesy, it's got certain moments where you're just going, oh, really? And I really enjoyed it. And then they did the second one, but where they went, oh, what we're going to do is we're not going to do it with Vin Diesel, we're going to do it with Ice Cube instead. And you just immediately went, what? And it's just the second Triple X is a horrid film. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I like the first one, and I will gladly go and see the second one. So the third, I would call it the second one because I just ignore the second one. I would call it the second one with.
You're confusing yourself now. Yeah. Yeah. If that's the case, then you're reviewing it because I haven't seen Triple X.
Okay.
So that's yours.
You might want to give it fun. I think you'd enjoy it more than like Expendables.
I know it. Expendables 3 is out in a few weeks' time,
yeah.
And I know Triple X has been shown a few times on TV, not as often or as much as you normally see a lot of films like that. So, if it's on, I might give it a watch, but I'm not going to seek it out. I'm not going to trudge through Netflix or whatever to find it. Right, let's get on to the UK box office top 10.
Yep, starting at number 10 with Chef.
Which you're going to have to comment on this because I've not seen it.
Okay, what more can I say other than the whole thing of it being advertised as food porn, and it basically is. It's really got a lot of heart in it. It's really well put together. Jon Favreau is brilliant both behind and in front of the camera. It's even a film where it managed to make John Leguizamo not only bearable but good. And it made me really sort of think about how you get films now that are made for big budget, things like this. Is a small indie film made out of interest. Someone wants to make it and has interest in something and they love it and they want to bring it to the screen, and he does. At number 9 is Tammy, which I think you haven't seen that either.
No, I have seen Tammy.
Oh, you have seen it? Okay.
Yeah, I unfortunately have seen Tammy, and it's the typical Melissa McCarthy stuff. If you're a fan of her, then you'll find it funny at times. But if you're not a fan of her, like myself, you'll just find it annoying because you know there is a proper actress in there somewhere. There is a role out there for Melissa McCarthy. writing things like this that she has done, she's just writing herself into a very stereotypical character that she's constantly played over and over again. It's not funny. Susan Sarandon is probably the strongest bit about the film. And there is a scene in the movie which proves my point in the fact that if it was played out the way it should have been played out, then it would have added a nice little drama element to the film, and it would have shown Melissa McCarthy's acting. However, they decided to just go, nope, this is a comedy, let's make it funny. And it's just annoying. And it's happened before in a Melissa McCarthy film, so yeah, if you're a fan of hers, you'll enjoy it. If not, then you won't.
Yeah. I agree on that whole thing of there being a point as well, which is, if it had been played as it seems today, and not for a laugh, then it would have been very, very strong in sort of a contender for a good drama and not a weak comedy as it is. Number 8 is Maleficent.
We've said absolutely everything we can about Maleficent. It's held on in the chart for quite a while now, not getting past the £20 million mark, just adding a smaller little amount of money to its overall takings every single week. But I think Disney will be pretty happy with the strength that it's proven.
Yeah, well, it is in the overall, the whole of the box office, only just at being at number 6 film, the highest grossing total in the top 10.
But it's probably the film that's been in the top 10 the longest as well.
Yeah,
so
about the same, yeah. We have a new entry at number 8 with Boyhood,
which I've seen. We were hoping to review this on last week's show, but me and Andrew couldn't get to see it.
Because it did get a very limited release, and which didn't help. And then, funnily enough, the second week, it's everywhere.
Yeah, well, sort of. The cinema that I went to, which I need to mention, is the Tyneside Cinema in Newcastle. It's an absolutely amazing little cinema. It feels like you're going to see a film for the first time. It is that brilliant. They have a little kiosk inside the screening where you can buy your popcorn or your drinks, and then as soon as the adverts finish, that's it. That kiosk closes, and that's it. You can't buy any more food. It has an old-fashioned sign-up on the door saying "Movie in Progress." So if you get there early before your film starts, you know that there's still a film being shown, so you've got to wait. You have proper ushers in the screening as well. It's actually screened by a projectionist. And so it's a fantastic, fantastic little cinema. So if you live close by it, I highly recommend you going to see a film. And the best thing about the cinema is it shows very small movies, for movies that don't get the big releases. So a bit like Boyhood, which is getting a more widespread release now, being shown on more bigger screens that you would normally expect to see, like a Transformers movie. So yeah, the film itself it's around about the same length as the latest Transformers film. It's on for just shy of 3 hours, and considering that the film is just about boyhood, to be honest, it's about a guy called Mason, a little boy called Mason, grown up from the age of 5 to 18. But it doesn't just explore his life; it explores his mother's life, his father's life, and his sister's life. How his mother's goes through a couple of relationships, and one especially being abusive. How his father is living far away from them, but he keeps picking them up every fortnight. How his sister grows up and she's much more down to earth. She wants to study more, and he just wants to be a child, to be honest. And the way the director, Richard Linklater, has actually done the film is he shot so much of the movie each year over the period of 12 years. So you see the actors growing up. They never change the actors for the characters. So you see the actors growing up alongside their character. And it's a very unique, interesting way to do a movie. And it makes you attached to the characters a lot more. It feels like you're growing up with them. You go through a proper journey throughout the film, and never does it feel overly long, because the movie is handled with such brilliance that it's just, you're captivated throughout. There are some fantastically funny elements of the movie, which the screening that I was in wasn't full, but I had just about the right amount of people to get a really good atmosphere from that. The humour came across brilliantly. People giggled at areas where you expect the joke to land. It would actually feel flat under the hands of a director who couldn't handle something like this. So Boyhood is definitely a movie that needs to be seeked out. It's easily in my top 5 of the year. It's brilliantly acted, it is brilliantly shot, and it's brilliantly directed, and it's just a fantastic film.
Okay, on to the number 6 movie, which we said about is almost the highest grossing film in the top 10, 22 Jump Street. Yeah,
very, very funny. It's up there with the first one. I think it's on par. There are a few jokes that miss the mark a bit like the first one, but it's still, for the amount of jokes that you get in the film itself, it easily passes the 6-laugh test. In my eyes, it absolutely obliterates the 4-laugh test, even in the credits.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's absolutely brilliant. I loved it as much as I did the first one, and was not expecting that. At number 5 is a new entry for Begin Again, which I don't believe. Have you seen this?
I haven't seen it.
No. I got to say, this is a shame because you haven't seen the number 10 film, Chef. This is very similar in the fact that it's a story about something that people are really enjoying. It's a focus on the character and the acting and the drama over being a big film. It's a small indie film. You have Mark Ruffalo as a music executive. You have Keira Knightley as a singer-songwriter who is kind of down on her luck and problems with having split up with her ex, who's a singer. And she basically gets sort of approached by him saying, I heard your music, I love it, I want to make an album with you. And then it's all this whole thing of them going through that, while also there's the drama that goes on as well. And it's really nicely held together. And it's got this real thing about the whole thing of music and the industry and the way it is now, and the love of music. So again, a labour of love for something that you're into. And just in this case, as opposed to Chef, it's food. In this, it's music. And it's very well put together, and I really enjoyed it. Number 4 movie is The Fault in Our Stars.
Another one of those films where the acting is fantastic. It suffers a little bit from a sagging section in the middle, but it brings it all together again with a brilliant final act, and it opens up very strongly as well. Shailene Woodley and Ansel Elgort are two actors who need to be looked out for in the future. I know they've got the sequel to Divergent coming up. It's got a different name to Divergent because it's not called Divergent 2 or whatever. But they've got the sequel of that coming up, and so they work really well together.
Number 3 is Mrs. Brown's Boys, the movie.
No chance in hell I'll be seeing this film.
Yeah, which I'm kind of envious of you because I had to. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I really annoy it. And the thing is that it's not even a clever movie. And the thing that's kind of that even says that is the fact that there's people who we know in Ireland, people on Following the Nerd, because they're based in Ireland, and they have issues with it because of the fact of the jokes in it, they all say, are old jokes that everyone they know is like they grew up with their parents saying them and stuff, and they're not even sort of funny to them. They're just old things that people said, and it's just common knowledge things now. So it's kind of feeling like a one-trick pony that's now gone from TV to film, and not really advanced and made itself any better for being on the big screen. And that's the problem with it. The film doesn't work on a film level. I don't like the TV show, so I don't like the character, and I couldn't handle it. I couldn't stand it, and I laughed at a couple of things, but not at the film itself, but a couple of the physical gags, because they could have just been anything. So it's really just a poor, boring film.
One quick question. I know you were dragged along by your other half to see this film. What would you have preferred, to be dragged along to see this, or to be dragged along to see a horror film?
This is a horror film.
Now, as in a horror film, where I see it, not like a gory movie, because I know you can handle gore films. That's fine, like an Evil Dead movie. But a one where it's all like jump scares, so the scare kind of thing. Which one would you have preferred, this or a jump scare film? So something like Deliver Us from Evil.
You really put me on the spot here.
Yeah.
I mean, at least I could say then, oh yeah, well I went and saw a horror film after that.
Yeah, it would make me happy.
Whereas now all I can say is, oh yeah, I went and saw Mrs. Brown's Boys, the movie.
Yeah, I think you get a lot of disgust by saying, yeah, I've seen Mrs. Brown's Boys, the movie, rather than I've seen a horror film. So yeah.
Yeah. I'd have bragging rights at least if that was the case. Not kind of shameful bragging rights.
True.
Yeah. Number 2 is How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Yeah, which is it's the best animated film this year. The anime. I know that might seem a bit contentious considering that we're reviewing supposedly the best animated film this year later on in the show. But it's actually hard. I might actually cheat and put them both on level par, because How to Train Your Dragon 2 is brilliant. I've not seen the first one, so I went into this movie blind, and I just thought I want to see an animated film. I'll go in and watch it. I wasn't expecting too much, and it's lovely when you're not expecting too much from a film and you come out of it and go, that was fantastic. The animation is just beautiful. It's absolutely jaw-dropping in some of the scenes, especially the scene when you go inside the huge, massive ice cave and you see all the dragons just flying around. Each dragon is animated beautifully. It's just an absolute beautiful animated film. The storyline is very sort of like adult for a kid's animated film. It's quite dark at times, and some of the subjects that it touches upon is quite adult, and at least it teaches children that kind of thing. It's not all fluffy. It's not all like you've got the wisecracking characters, even though you've got a few little jokes in this. You're not expecting the wisecracking characters in it. So I loved it. I loved How to Train Your Dragon 2.
I gotta say as well, I really love it, and the fact that the animation puts so much emotion and character into Toothless, the dragon, which doesn't have any talking parts, and that you get character, and you get it, you understand it, you can read the emotion stuff from the character, which is really impressive.
Just before we go on to the final film, we're sort of like we're multitasking again. And like we did last week's show when the World Cup was on, etc., we're multitasking again with a post on Facebook regarding Mark from Following the Nerd in the Disney store.
Yeah, I just saw that. I thought, okay, I'll mention that quick. Yeah. Yeah, and so the number one movie of the week at the UK box office. Is there any really surprise? Do we need to say what it is?
Yeah, we probably do.
Okay. It's Transformers Age of Extinction.
Yeah, and so when I was doing the box office top 10 up on the site on MondayMovieShow.co.uk, I forgot to mention it at the start of the show, I always like to try and put in a few little facts, etc. And this film is the highest taking film this year for its debut opening weekend. In this case, I'm going by opening weekend, the whole total that it took, which is over 11 million. However, if you take out the previews, so the extra 68 previews that it had, it is only the 10th highest grossing film this year. Mm-hmm. So without the previews, it clocks in at around about 4.2 million that it took, which is actually quite weak considering that the third film took much more than that. As a matter of fact, over the period of time, it took somewhere in the region around about 8 million, 9 million pounds. So the previous film was actually a higher taking film than this one if you take out the previews. And so that's showing that it's not the fact that it's starting to wear a little bit on people, the fact that the Transformers series is getting a bit annoying. It's just the fact that the way they thought about bolstering the takings for the film is to have that opening 6 days, that 6-day preview. So it's just strange in that instance, and it's not as bad as the last one, the third film. The third film was terrible.
Well, I gotta say, I think the second film was the worst one, and it's better than that.
I think both the second and third film are terrible anyway. The second one I watched with a few friends, and we laughed through most of the film, pointing out all the mistakes, etc. So it shows you how bad it is. This one is slightly better. It is still Michael Bay going, "Whoa, look at that explosion. Oh, I can do lots of special effects. I've got loads of budget, and the studio can go to hell. I'm going to create whatever I want to create." And so he's still got that mentality, but it's not in full force. It's not like at Mach 10 speed in this case. The human element of it is still the weakest. The Transformer stuff is still the most interesting stuff, and the last 20 minutes is put together quite fine. It just ends abruptly. It just ends like that. And I felt like the characters just felt very stereotypical. There were a few dark elements to it, which is nice to see from Michael Bay going back to the dark elements rather than making everything like a comic book. No offense to comic book readers out there, but it did feel like a comic book at times. And so I've seen it twice. I know that's a crime, considering that I'm not a fan of Michael Bay. Seen it in IMAX and seen it in 3D. I'm not seeing it in 2D. It's still very average at its best.
I want to say I largely agree with it, but with your comments there. But I have to say I think I like the human aspect of it more, and the fact that the human side of it is more because the humans are the bad guys in it largely. So I didn't mind that. I thought it was a bit of a new angle, a new take on it. So I quite enjoyed that.
I just didn't.
Kelsey Grammer is like a head of a CIA rogue agent sort of thing. You know, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that, but the way Michael Bay handled his character he proved that he went wrong with it. because the fact that he made him so a stereotypical kind of character, he didn't give very much breathing room for him. The amount of screen time that he's on in the film itself, considering that the film is not very shy of 3 hours, it's very close to the 3 hour mark. He must have about 10 minutes, probably 15 minutes maximum of the film, and most of the film is just him looking really annoyed, throwing things here and there, and then just making a deal with one of the bad Transformers. That's about it. That's his role, and it's not padded out very much. It's just we need a bad guy in a human. Kelsey Grammer could do bad guy pretty decently. Let's just get him to be in the film. We've seen Stanley Tucci do the over-the-top character in the Hunger Games series. Let's just get him in the film as well. He might help out the movie. And let's just underuse them, and let's change his character near to the end and make him annoying. So it's just very stereotypical of Michael Bay.
Okay.
Right, that's it for the box office top 10, because we could be here all night again with Transformers talk. Let's go on to our first review of the night.
It's the big movie of the week, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It's directed by Matt Reeves. It is the follow-on to Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and obviously has again in it as the main character that you do introduce to him right at the very start of Caesar, again played by Andy Serkis, but obviously utilising motion capture to show him as playing an ape.
I think he prefers it to be called motion performance now.
Motion performance. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, either way, I mean, it's the fact that it is motion performance. Motion
Something.
Capture, I don't know. We'll see. But the thing is with it though, it's centres around him at the start of the film and the apes that are now living in their well, kind of like an encampment they've built in the forest that they ended up in. This is set after the opening, which has a title sequence which explains about the virus which you saw set up at the end of the last film, having spread around the world and killed off millions and millions of people. The apes communicate amongst themselves using sign language initially, and signing and it's subtitled so you can understand what they're talking. They say about the fact that it's been 10 years since they've sort of been released and they were escaped, and it's been at least 2 years since they saw any humans, so they have no idea if any of the humans are alive, if there's any more left. One day after they've been out going through the forest, they encounter a group of humans. They all sort of get ready and sort of build up on them and sort of charge at them. Caesar holds them back, and the group of humans there, after one of them initially out of fear shoots one of the apes, there's a sort of a standoff. They all sort of back off and then go away after they see Caesar stand there, and Caesar talks and screams at them, "Go." This, of course, sends them back to their refuge they've got in the city, where sort of the last remnants of humanity has sort of made a little sort of area that they can survive, a sort of a built-up, protected sort of area of the city, which is, I think it's Chicago, isn't it? I forget
yes.
the city is. Yeah, Chicago. Obviously it's all sort of overgrown and stuff outside, but they're living there under sort of a limited resource they've got, living under things like generators, which they're going to run out of fuel for within the next 2 to 3 weeks. The plan for them is to go up in the forest where the apes were, unaware that the apes were there, to see if they could get a generator to work from basically a dam that's there, which needs to be built up so it can supply power to the people and they can carry on. The only problem is that there is this whole thing of them then having to negotiate with the apes to try and get to the dam and allow them to get there and work and do what they want to do. Here's a clip.
You know the scary thing about them? They don't need power. Lights. Heat. Nothing.
Hey, pal.
That's the advantage. That's what makes them stronger.
Malcolm, I'm thinking one of us should stand guard tonight.
With what? They took our guns.
If they wanted us dead, we'd be dead already.
Maybe they're just taking their time. They already killed off half the planet already.
Come on.
What?
You can't honestly blame the apes.
Who the hell else am I gonna blame? It was a simian flu.
It was a virus created by scientists in a lab. The chimps they were testing on didn't really have a say in the matter.
Spare me the hippy-dippy bull. You telling me you don't get sick to your stomach at the sight of them? Huh?
So the whole thing of what this has about is you have these two sides of this conflict. You have the humans and you have the apes. And then you have this whole thing of you have in the human camp, you have the character which kind of sets it all off. He's only a small minor character. The two main characters you have is played by Jason Clarke, who plays Malcolm, and Gary Oldman, who plays Dreyfus. The two of them, you find out, are the ones that set up this sort of sanctuary in the city. They're kind of the leaders. Gary Oldman is the leader of the city and the people there, and he is the one who's kind of saying, we need to take by force the access to the dam from the apes. We need to go up there, and then we'll be in charge, and we'll do it. And Clark's character is more being wants to be diplomatic, wants to talk with Caesar and try and negotiate and things. At the same time, on the side of the apes, you have Andy Serkis playing Caesar, who is the leader, who is sort of wanting to protect his family and stuff, as well as the same as the character of Malcolm. And you have Cobra, his kind of number two in command person, who is ape that is played by Toby Kebbell, taking over the role from someone else in the first film. It wasn't Toby Kebbell in the first one, but Toby Kebbell in this one. And there's this similarity, and you have kind of the two sides, but the similarities is what the film is really good at pointing out, and having these two that, even though they both want peace or they both want war with the characters, they're all sort of doing their own part to try and push it and get their own agendas. And that's basically what makes it such a great film that it is, because it's all about the characters. It's all about the characters, what they want to do, the characters, what they're doing, how they feel they have to act, some of them acting out of fear, some of them acting out of anger, some of them acting out of fear for what's going to happen in the future. And it means that you can connect not only with the human characters, but even more so with the apes. And I found that there were parts in it where I was genuinely really engrossed with the ape characters, and kind of certain parts when the apes at one point find the humans going through a military blockade and collecting all the weapons and testing them all and stuff, and you find you can understand why the apes are afraid and angry, because of the fact that they see humans militarizing and getting ready and stuff. And there's also sort of scenes, you have a great scene as well where Gary Oldman's character, when he gets power on, you have an iPad that powers up, and he goes, first time he's looked at it in 10 years, looking through it and looking at pictures of his children, which it's not really explained, but presumably died from the illness or from the chaos that ensued afterwards. And it's a real strong emotional point. And that's where this film really hits. It has a real strong emotional point. I defy anyone to go and see this and come out and go, well, that was boring, I didn't care. Because if you didn't care, there's something different wrong with you. This film makes you care for the characters, and that is where its strength is. And that's not its only strength. The effects is fantastic for the apes. The whole thing of you have the conflict of not only the humans and the apes, but then the internal conflict of the humans, the internal conflict of the apes. And really, it has everything you can want in it. The one thing I would say is, I saw this with my other half. She walked out of the film afterwards, and she was actually quite sort of a bit in shock and terrified a little from the Cobra character in particular. I think the Toby Kebbell's character, she was quite fearful of him because he was quite a horrible character at some point. So, and every time he was on screen, she was kind of fearful of, oh no, this is going to happen. And there is that kind of level of tension in it too, which I have to applaud Matt Reeves for doing, because he's really brought that tension to the screen and sustained it really well throughout. So I think this is a fantastic film. I think it's better than the first film, and that surprised me because the first film was really good, and this is good but on a different wavelength, and I found it really enjoyable.
Yeah, Matt Reeves can handle sort of like that kind of thing, because he did do Cloverfield.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. It's sort of like got similar kind of themes in a way, but it's another one of those ones where the Cloverfield alumni seem to be getting really good at doing these kind of films, like going off. And for instance, if you look at Cabin in the Woods, that was a brilliant film from somebody who worked on Cloverfield. But with Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, I feel the weakness of the film, in my opinion, is the storyline itself. I think the storyline itself is just very stereotypical. It's just if I had to find a weakness of the movie, and trust me, it was difficult for me to find a weakness in a movie. I looked over the film, going through my mind after I watched it, and I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I just felt like the storyline itself was slightly weak, just slightly weak. It's just slightly stereotypical, but they're just like you said, the way the director explores the conflict not between both apes and humans, but inside the encampment. We've seen it all before when it comes to the human side of things. You're always going to get some people who don't agree with the leader, who think that the leader, what he's doing is wrong. And seeing it on the different standpoint of view with the apes, the way they communicate with each other via sign language, and a few of them knowing how to speak, Cobra and Caesar obviously having the being able to speak the most. So, I know a lot of people have had a bit of a problem with the fact that why are they able to speak? But that's obviously explained in the first film, and obviously Caesar knows how to, and he's passed it on to a few of his the ape brethren that he's with it. But the conflict between Cobra and Caesar, the fact that Cobra sees what Caesar doing is wrong, and he thinks that his idea is the best way, and how he's manipulating people inside that encampment. I thought also that each one of the apes has got a proper personality of their own. Each one of them feel like a proper unique character. Maurice, who's one of the huge, massive orangutans from the first one, he's in this one, and he's sort of like the one who calms everything down, who sort of like speaks between each party inside of the apes. And so every ape has got a personality. Every ape feels like a proper human. And I love the way that was brought together. It's beautifully shot. The camera movements, the way the move around it is fantastic. The cinematography is beautiful. Even when you look at the dilapidated Chicago, it reminded me of the game The Last of Us. It reminded me of that little section from Godzilla, where you saw the vegetation growing on the buildings, etc. It's just very well structured. And the fact that, even though it's a big film, it's practically done on a smaller scale because it's encapsulated in that just area there. And so I think it works very well for the film. It's a really enjoyable movie. I saw it in 2D. And I know you saw it in 3D, didn't you?
Yeah, I saw it in 3D. I mean, the 3D was okay. There wasn't anything especially brilliant in it that needed the 3D. I mean, even there were only a couple of scenes where you had things like the embers and things floating in the screen, which is one of the things that 3D does really well. And there was only a couple of those moments. It wasn't anything that you're going, oh, that's really nice, that looks really good. It was just like, I'm getting into this and I was enjoying the film, but I don't think the 3D helped my immersiveness. I think it was all down to the film.
Yeah, and I think that's helpful in a way, because a lot of people who don't like 3D, who get dragged along to see a film in 3D, if they can still enjoy the film, then fine on that. But I really liked it. I thought it was a very strong film. It's very on level for me with Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I really like Rise of the Planet of the Apes, but Dawn takes it a step further and it evolves the characters more so, and then it leads on to the third one, because there is going to be a third part to the series, so it'll be nice to actually see it. Just one more little thing is, when it starts in the first 10 minutes, you've got very little dialogue, practically no dialogue whatsoever, because it's all just in the encampment. And the first thing I said to myself is, I could watch an entire film like this, and that's when I knew that this film was going to be good.
Yeah, you could, although I think that's where it would, if it did it for too long. I think the part of the push of that, why it starts going into them talking in certain bits, because of the fact that they're obviously dealing with people. But I think part of that is the whole thing of that there would be some of the audience would be lost from that.
Not me.
No, not you, and probably not. I don't think I'd have a problem with it, but I think a large part of the audience would tire from that.
But I think that is proof that the film itself, what you're going to see for the rest on, is going to be something quite special or something really good. If you can watch that first 10 minutes and get through that first 10 minutes and see at the end of it, I could see an entire film like this, then you know that there is a good film there.
Yeah, I would say as well that it is a 12A rating and definitely is a 12 movie. I would not say anyone really under that age, because it is quite not. There are violence moments between the apes in particular, but it's more the fact of that it's the tension in it. I think is quite a bit much for anyone under the age of 12.
Yeah, I was going to do a news story about film complaints that was sent to the BBFC in 2013, because they've just tallied it all together now, and they put a thing in there saying something like in the region of 145 films were given the 12A rating, which is the highest amount of films that's ever been given the 12A rating since the certificate actually launched. So it's proven that a lot of films are going for that 12A rating, but pushing the boundaries of a 12A.
Yeah.
Right, next up is, we're not reviewing the Pudsey movie. Pudsey the Dog, the movie, yeah. You should be glad we're not reviewing that film. I don't think any of us would have wanted...
I'm glad we're not reviewing it, because that would have meant probably I would have had to go and see it, because you wouldn't have gone.
You can just imagine if at the start of the show saying during the lineup, "Oh, we're doing Puds of the Dog the movie," I think you probably would have said, "Yeah, we're not recording the show then." But next film up is Grand Central. It's directed by Rebecca Zlotowski. Got it right in the end, and it stars Tahar Rahman and Leah Sadu, who was in I forgot the name of the film now.
Grand Central.
No, not the name of the film that I'm reviewing, you numpty. The film that she was in earlier this year. She was in a film where she played a lesbian. I
shall look it up for you while you go on with the review.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it centres around Tara Rahman's character who plays Gary. He's a man who's very unskilled. At the start of the film, you see him on a train. He gets his wallet pinched, and he's heading towards this nuclear power station because that's one of the only kind of jobs that unskilled people like him can get. The fact that the wage is quite high. His starting wage is like €1,200 a month. But obviously the dangers with the job is the fact that he has to go and clean out this nuclear facility and maintain it. And so it's just the start of the film just sees him getting the job in that. It gets put under an apprentice kind of thing. He befriends a few of the people who work there. He starts to get romantically attached to Leah Sadu's character, who plays Carol, and she is romantically involved with another character who works with Gary in this nuclear power station. And the rest of the film just explores him trying to get to terms with the job that he's with, how dangerous it is, and also trying to have this relationship with Carol out the way of Carol's boyfriend and soon-to-be husband. And so the movie just plays out like that. It's sort of like just a relationship movie with the added dangers of a nuclear power plant in there.
Would this be just the film you're talking about, Blue is the Warmest Colour?
That's the film, Blue is the Warmest Colour. And she sort of like, in Blue is the Warmest Colour, she played a lesbian, and the film's on for about 3 hours, and it has some very uncomfortable sex scenes, and she doesn't mind getting naked, etc. In this film, she definitely doesn't mind getting naked. So I think it's an actress who, a lot of directors, if they want an actress in the film to get completely naked, they'll just go to her. Because she has no qualms whatsoever. She just stands there. So, acting-wise, I think Leah Sadu was better in Blue is the Warmest Colour than she is in this movie, because her role is just very, very sustained and very mundane. It's sort of like, very much like the film. The times when the film itself starts to grow a bit of pace, it is involving a few incidents that happen inside the nuclear power plant. Regarding the relationship, you don't see any drama behind it because there is no threat. You don't think that, normally in these kind of movies, when you have two people who are trying to have a relationship behind somebody's back, there's always that kind of nervous thing where you might see a nervous twitch between the two characters, and that's not the case with this one. It seems to just go normally through the film, and so that's the problem with the film. The film itself is just very normal. It's on for 90 minutes, an hour and a half. It doesn't oversteer its welcome. It just feels a very normal film with that adage of having the nuclear power plant in it and the few tiny little incidents that happen. So don't expect the movie to just fly by and have loads of disaster elements to it, or something, a turmoil happen to a character or whatever. That just does not happen. It doesn't occur. It's just a very straight-laced, straightforward film.
I just want to ask as well, because is it one of these films that, because it's a French film, you sometimes get this thing with French films where it kind of, I don't mean it doesn't translate, but it doesn't translate properly. You know, the whole thing, if there's something in it that's, because it's obviously about life and death and that kind of thing, those kind of things don't necessarily cross boundaries between different countries and the way that the countries view those kind of things. I mean, it's more of a thing that happens with Japanese and Chinese sort of philosophy, if you understand what I mean. Does it do that well with this? Because I find sometimes with French films, you sometimes struggle to understand the characters' motives because of the fact that they think differently than you do.
It's sort of like the way the French mentality is at. The French have a very laid-back view when it comes to their dramas. If you look at other side of the things, because they've slowly brought themselves away from horror, and with the horror, they were known for some quite extreme movies. You look at Alexander Aja's films. Whereas if you look on the other flip side with their dramas, you need to get the pacing correct. The Dardans, they're Swedish mixed with French. but they do their movies in French. And The Kid with the Bike is a perfect example of a movie where it's got a very simple premise, but it flows brilliantly because you're attached to the characters, and that's what you need. You need to be able to attach yourself to characters if you're watching a subtitled movie, because it can put a lot of people off. So with this movie, it's just very mundane. And so it just doesn't have a Dardenne kind of feel to it. It needs that kind of thing to make it interesting. And I think I agree with you, the fact that it'll play well in France because it's got that French mentality. But it won't play as well over here because we need that thing to latch on to.
Interesting.
Right, that's it for the cinema section of the show. We'll be back in a moment with the home releases.
From page to screen.
So they have 9 times out of 10 they have to send it back to you unopened or just throw it in the garbage can.
Things don't always look exactly as we envision our life to look, but sometimes it works out and turns out even better.
Gregor Fisher, his Bacon number is 2 because he was appeared with January Jones in Love Actually, and January Jones and Kevin Bacon appeared in X-Men First Class together.
I've got to say, the very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas, now that just makes me want to rush out.
It's about the acting and about the writing. That's really what theatre is for me.
Probably had more names than Prince or whatever. Never mind, there's a joke for the oldies. It'd be like, who's Prince? Who's he? I'd just like to see Mr. Freeze hiring his bad guys going, right, okay, so you're a psycho, right, can you ice skate? Head over to iTunes, Spreaker and Stitcher and put in the search box From Page to Screen.
And we are back with this week's Monday Movie Show to our DVD and Blu-ray home releases section, in which we'll be doing a look at the Blu-ray and DVD top 10 and these new releases.
Before I do that, you're very lucky, aren't you? On Thursday you're going to see a very small movie called Guardians of the Galaxy, I think it's called.
Little small movie, yeah. And
yeah,
I think in IMAX too.
Yeah, and it's just, I follow Chris Hewitt, who writes for Empire Magazine on Twitter, and I was slightly distracted during that because he put up a tweet saying, T-shirts, ? Check. Spare pair of jeans, dictaphone, check. Full-size Rocket Raccoon love pillow, check. Packing for Comic-Con 2014 is complete. And that just made me giggle.
I would love to do that, but no, I'm happy with going to see Guardians like a week early.
I would love to.
Like, I got that and I was just like, ooh, you know. Really, I kind of like, you know, I almost peed a little.
Ew. That doesn't mean that we're reviewing it on next week's show. We're not.
No.
We officially...
Although I am going to be appearing as long as technology works. I shall be making a quick appearance after viewing it on the live broadcast of Following the Nerd, if everything works out. So...
And yeah, you should be glad that Following the Nerds on after 9 o'clock, because embargoes for the film is 9 o'clock PM on Thursday. So if the show was on at 8 o'clock, then you wouldn't be able to do it because you would be embargoed.
Well, I won't be on till a little bit later because my film doesn't start till near that time anyway. So.
Right, on to the Blu-ray and DVD section of the show. We're looking at Need for Speed, the Lego Movie, The Stag, The Zero Theorem, After the Dark, and The Employer.
Yeah. And as usual, then we'll go on to our TV movies of the week, and we'll shout out as well, a few shout outs as well as our movie of the week before we end with a clip from a said small big film. So let's go into the DVD and Blu-ray top 10. So
at number 10 is The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, I mean, we've not said anything much other than the fact that it needs to be cut down because it is literally 3 hours in running length. It could do with a trim. I don't have as much of a problem with it as you do, but I think that it is very well written, very funny. It's questionable as to whether or not you really can kind of like the main character because of the fact he's quite a despicable person, and that is kind of the downfall of it.
At number 9 is a new entry for The Hooligan Factory.
Haven't seen this, I don't know if you have or not, but our friend Stuart on From Page to Screen, whose advert you heard there in the middle of the show, he has been sort of bigging this up quite a bit, so he seems very excited about this. So I mean, it looks as though it might be pretty good. We haven't seen it yet, gonna have to try and see if we can see it for maybe mentioning it next week.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be in next week's chart at all, to be honest. But Stuart, if you follow him on Facebook, he's been a nightmare with this film over the last week or so, because he's constantly been posting stuff on Facebook about how it is the funniest film ever made this year, etc. And I'm thinking to myself, he's very easily pleased, which he is. He's very easily pleased. He will not have a bad word said against very few films, and I try my best to try and push him into the direction of criticising a movie properly. But he will not do that. He has his own ways and methods, so I doubt it will be as funny as he's saying it is. I'm just intrigued to watch it to see if it is the case.
But then you are not like the best judge of comedy.
That's true, but we'll see. If it makes me laugh, then I can actually say, yeah, you were right. If it doesn't make me laugh, then I can say, yeah, you were definitely still wrong. Number 8, this is definitely bad comedy, is Ride Along.
Yeah, it's not great, but I have to admit it did make me laugh at a few points in it, and I didn't hate it. There are worse films out there that are this kind of thing trying to be funny, and they're not funny at all. This did make me laugh a couple times, but it genuinely has moments in it that are just repeating what's been done before. It's not as bad in that regard as I was going to say The Help, not The Help, as the Melissa McCarthy, Sandra Bullock one, The Heat. Yes, it's not as bad in that regard, where that just completely rips off loads of films. This actually has sort of a story to it, if you can say that. But it's not very well put together, and it's kind of disappointing that it's done that well that it is getting a sequel.
Yeah, it's really hard to say this, but it's much dumber than the 21, 22 Jump Street films. It tries to be very like that, mixed with The Heat, and it feels badly.
Well, the thing is, the 22 Jump Street films are self sort of degrading, grandizing, that kind of thing. They're not funny, but then they know it. They're being funny. This is not funny and thinks it's being funny, but it's not.
By adding a drama element to it as well, which feels as well.
Yeah.
And number 7 is The Book Thief,
which is a film which I didn't think worked because of the fact that I don't think elements from the book work in film. Largely it's it's narrated by the character of Death, and that it kind of has a ending to it because of that, and also the fact that it's set during World War II and it's in Germany, but then you don't really see the thing of the horrors of war and the Nazis, and it kind of shies away from that, and it felt very much like it was not being an apologist movie for the whole things of the war, but it felt like it was kind of being a kind of like, oh, we don't want to show that, we'll just show this kind of things, and that felt very much like a kind of a wrong element to it.
At number 6 is Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, for obvious reasons. It's absolutely brilliant. If you haven't seen it, then do check it out, because then after you've seen it, you can go, you know what, I want to see Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, because you will.
At number 5, surprisingly, is a new entry for Under the Skin.
Yeah, I like the movie. I don't think it's successful. I don't think it's a good movie. I think it has issues, in particular with the narration of the character. It kind of tries to put you in the character's head, but the problem is that the main character, played by Scarlett Johansson, is an alien. And I liked it. I don't think a lot of people either liked it. I've only seen it at the cinema. I know you saw it for the home release, but in the cinema, and I saw it in Glasgow where it's filmed, so it drew a lot of people for that because it was filmed locally. And a lot of people and then were disappointed when they walked out because they didn't really know what they were going into. It is an art house film, and it feels like it, but it's kind of it doesn't know what it wants to be and the type of art house. If it wants to be one of these art house films that has a message, or if it wants to be one of these art house films that tries to do something different, and it tries to do both, and it kind of doesn't.
Yeah, it's a Marmite film. I think it's definitely one of those movies that really divides people. You'll either really enjoy it, really like it, or you'll just not get the grips with the way it's filmed and shot.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of reminded me a bit of The Man Who Fell to Earth, but in the way that it kind of doesn't make sense when you're watching it, but then afterwards you kind of go, okay, and then you understand and you get the character's motives, and in that way it's very Alien and very successful. But it's too successful that it kind of alienates the audience while you're watching it.
Yep, at number 4, the highest new entry this week is Escape from Planet Earth.
Yeah, really surprising because it's not that good. The animation is okay, the story is okay, the the film itself is just an okay, average movie. But and the thing is to say that that's good is not, because in the especially the week when we have things like the Lego Movie coming out and other things we've had this year that have been much better level animation movies, both story wise, both animation wise, both full entertainment wise, and this just doesn't have it. And I'm kind of annoyed that it got this high.
Yeah, I'm not annoyed that it got this high, to be honest. It was a film that we got a year after the US.
Yeah.
It was released in the US last year, and we got it in 3D, and I think it only went in the chart like number 7 or something like that, and it didn't spend very much time in the chart because nobody wanted to see it, because it is such a very mundane animated film.
And it has been very quick coming to DVD as well after that.
Yeah, exactly. At number 3 is the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Loved it, absolutely fantastic, brilliant. Wes Anderson's best live action film. I still just behind for me, the Fantastic Mr. Fox, but brilliantly put together with some fantastic cast. In particular, Ralph Fiennes, who's just absolutely marvelous, fantastic in the film. And I think this is going to be in my top 5 films of the year at the end of the year. I really do believe that, because it's just fantastic. Loved it, and it's hysterical at parts.
Yeah, it won't be in my top 5, to be honest. But
Top
you
10?
probably no,
okay,
no, because I was actually I've started to write out my list. I've gone through each one of my films that I've seen this year so far and taken the films that I've given a 7.5 or higher. I've only taken the select few 7.5 films. Grand Budapest Hotel isn't one of them, but I've only got 9 in my top 10 list.
Okay, we generally don't give movies a rating number, but what would you give Grand Budapest Hotel?
I think I'd give it a 7.
Okay, I wouldn't be disappointed with that, but for me it'd be like a 9, because it's just that quirkiness that Wes Anderson brings to the screen is like somebody with OCD, and it's just so trippy.
Yeah, the only reason why I gave them a number is just because it makes it much more easier for me to pick out the films to put in my top 10s at the end of the year. So it's a much more easier way this year, considering the amount of films that we do watch.
Yeah.
And number 2 is Non-Stop.
And the thing with Non-Stop is that it's kind of interesting that it's one of these films that it's this whole thing of, unfortunately, timing not the best, but of things happening on a plane. And it kind of is ridiculous. You're kind of sitting there and you're going, this is terrible, I'm not really going with it, but it kind of manages to be terrible and yet also keep your attention and not completely fall apart, and you kind of go, by the time you get to the end of it, you go, you know what, that wasn't bad, it was a lot better than I expected. It wasn't, you kind of got to a certain point and you go, yeah, okay, we're into really unbelievable territory now, we're into Liam Neeson does Taken on a plane, but it's not as bad as Taken 2.
Exactly. And at number 1, how did it manage to get back to number 1? Frozen.
Yeah. Which I'm not sure, but I bet my girlfriend still hasn't watched this.
How many more? That was the question I was going to ask. How many more people have not seen this film?
I'm probably going to get a text of abuse from her now, saying I still haven't seen it. Stop hassling me about it. But yeah, it's fantastic.
It's Frozen.
It's Frozen at the top spot, yeah. And it's frozen. It's frozen on a day that's absolutely roasting. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I really love it. I think it is. I think the thing that's magical about it, and it is magical, is the fact that it's got that old feel, Mary Poppins Disney to it, which hasn't really been shown in a film for the last decade, and not in any of the animation films. And that's what's really special about it.
Exactly. But it's still a number 1. It's still in the top 10. We're talking about Maleficent hanging around. This is just never leaving.
Yeah. So that's UK box of UK DVD and Blu-ray top 10. Let's go on to our first new release this week.
Frozen is still in the 10. Forget it. Need for Speed. It's based on the video game.
Cover your ears, people.
Yeah, a video game that you never would have thought would have been turned into a film. I know we've yet to see the Tetris movie, and that could be absolutely genius. Or
we kind of have seen the Tetris movie in a way.
Well,
Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Or the Hungry Hippos movie, which there is going to be a Hungry Hippos movie.
Yes. Oh dear, don't remind me.
Yeah, Hasbro is turning a lot of their films. Battleship, you know how that turned out. So you can just imagine if Peter Berg gets his hands on Hungry Hungry Hippos.
Though there is another one. There's another one being made now, isn't there, as well? As a
they're doing Connect 4 as well.
Oh dear.
I know. And supposedly Monopoly, but that wasn't... I think Ridley Scott was originally attached to do Monopoly. Exactly. So the Need for Speed, video game-wise, getting turned into a film is not like so out there, but it is still one of those franchises where you think to yourself, we've not seen a Battlefield movie, we've not seen a Call of Duty film. There are still video games out there which could be absolutely blown out of proportion into a film. Uwe Boll has still yet to get his grubby mitts onto those kind of movies. So, yeah, in this case, Need for Speed, it stars Aaron Paul, who plays Toby Marshall, who builds and races muscle cars with his team in this sort of like, well, I was going to say it's a factory, but it's more like a garage. And so he works. He's a really good mechanic. The cars that he creates with his team are really high quality, etc. And so he has to team up with an arch enemy of his. I hate using that. It makes it definitely sound like a comic book. In the form of Dino Brewster, who's played by Dominic Cooper, and he's got the money. He is a race driver, and so he needs help. Toby does really need help because his company is going downhill. The garage is not getting very many cars brought in anymore, and so he needs help in some way, shape or form. And so he teams up with Dino reluctantly, and they decide to have a race together with a few people who work there, and an incident happens where Toby is framed for what actually... I'm not going to give it too much away, but he is framed for it. He gets 2 years in prison. After the 2 years has happened, obviously, he's built up a lot of anger against Dino, and he wants to get revenge in it. And the only way he can do this is by sort of like joining this huge, massive race known as the D. Leon, who's run by this secret character who's known as the Monarch, played by Michael Keaton. And there is this person who bought a car from him originally, this very important muscle car, and he needs help. And Imogen Poots comes over to America to try and sort of like help him out in a way, but she has to go with him in this car to take it from where they are to this race, etc. Here's a clip.
Wait. You're not going anywhere.
You need a right, Caesar. And Ingram is not going to leave this car in the hands of an ex-con who's about to leave the state and break parole. 44 hours and 59 minutes left. Let's go.
Okay. Maybe we can just ditch her at a gas station or something.
Hey, man, look, you want to go on? I'll boom her ass out. Okay? Just follow me, dude. I'll be driving like a bat out of hell. She'll be screaming to get out of this car.
She's just crazy, you know? She talks too much.
Yeah, and at the end there it goes silent. Because that's where I should have snipped that last 2 seconds off the end of that clip there, but I didn't see the point of it.
It wasn't too bad, actually. You shouldn't have said anything and no one would have noticed.
I don't care. But the way the rest of the film pans out is very much like the Need for Speed games. More so Need for Speed The Run. Because with Need for Speed The Run in the video game franchise series, it tried to add a storyline to it where you had a character and you had elements where there was proper CGI footage and you actually had to control the character itself. So it's very much like Need for Speed The Run. I wouldn't be surprised if they were thinking about calling the film Need for Speed The Run. It takes elements from Need for Speed Most Wanted as well, and so if you know how those games play out, you can piece together this film perfectly. It is sort of like the stepbrother of the Fast and Furious franchise. Mm-hmm. It is trying to be very much like the Fast and Furious franchise, and at times it works because the stunts in it are proper physical stunts. They've got a proper driver behind it. They're not using CGI, and they are jumping across a few cars, and they are getting towed away by a helicopter, etc. But I know I said the etc. thing again. But it's not as ridiculous as Fast and Furious, because the way the Fast and Furious films have gone on, You do not get somebody getting caught in midair and then landing on a bonnet of something.
I knew you were going to bring that up.
Or you don't get a chase down an airport runway, which is 25 miles long, yet there would never be an airport runway that long. So you don't get the ridiculousness of that. You do get a jump over a motorway section, but it's not as insane as the stuff that you see in that. And in a way, that's sort of like the problem with Need for Speed. It tries to take itself too seriously at times, even though it has some light-hearted elements, and there are a few little elements where the drama works in it, where it does go with the flow on that instance, but yeah, it tries to take itself too seriously in areas where it shouldn't do that, and it's way too long as well. Some of the saving graces of it, Aaron Paul is not too bad. Dominic Cooper is completely stupid. I think his character is really just very stereotypically bad. Michael Keaton he's having fun. He had to do RoboCop, and so he's doing this, and so I think this is him just letting off a bit of steam, and so he's having a lot of fun with this film.
Full-on scenery-chewing performance in this, isn't
but
it?
It works for him in that thing. I like him when he's like that. Imogen Poots is just she plays a side character in the film. She's always in the car with Aaron Paul's character, and that's how it feels. She just feels like a side character, and so the film is not as bad as you might expect it to be. It's just one of those typical Saturday afternoon, beers with your mates, put it on for a few hours kind of film.
I got to say as well, I'm surprised that you didn't absolutely hate it, because I was all expecting you to go, no, hate it, horrible, and really digging it. It's not a brilliant film, but it is the sort of forgotten stepbrother of the Fast and Furious films. But it does the thing of it that it does have, like you're saying, is the thing of that it's all done practical stunts and stunt work, and people have really worked on it. It's not just gone, oh, we'll do it in special effects afterwards. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of was looking forward to seeing it when I did see it. And I was like, I'm enjoying this. I like the stunt work. I'm getting something out of this, and it feels you can feel it because it's on the screen, and it does have moments that are kind of just, especially some of the dialogue between the characters is cringe-inducing, but it's not bad. It's just you kind of go, cheesy. It rolls off your shoulder, and that's it. You carry on, and I enjoyed it. And it's the thing of it is the same directors as the film Act of Valor, which I know you absolutely hated.
I hate that film.
But again, that's a film I didn't love it or hate it, but I enjoyed it because of the fact that it was all done for real and it was using real Marines. And they've taken the same approach to this film. The director has taken the same approach to this film and done it all practical. And the reason is because he is a stuntman, and originally in his trade, the director, I don't know his name here. But he originally started out as a stuntman, then has gone on to director, so he knows what he can do with physical stunt, and that it's a lost art, and it's nice to see it in a film again.
Scott Waugh, who directed it. The only reason why I didn't really rip into the film is because I knew what I was going to expect. I knew what I was expecting. I didn't expect this to be like Fast and Furious. I know what the Need for Speed games are like. And it just feels like a Need for Speed game. The Need for Speed games, when they try to be serious, they don't work. When they try to be dumb, they don't work, because you've got things like the Burnout series and Ridge Racer for that. When it tries to find a middle ground, that's when it sort of works. And the film is perfectly like that. When it finds the middle ground, it works. When it tries to be drama, it doesn't work properly. When it tries to be dumb, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Okay, on to the Lego Movie, where everything is awesome, as we keep saying.
Oh, God.
I didn't sing it, I just went, everything's awesome.
You still said it, though.
It's written and directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, who also did the Jump Street movies, which is really odd to say they're doing this, and it's a kids' film.
And Cloudy with a Chance.
And rated U, which is a very rare thing. But the thing is that it's not that kind of thing. Oh god, it's rated U. Put it on for the kids, and then watch it. Put it on for the kids and put it on for the adults. You have Chris Pratt, who's voicing the main character in a world of Lego, where everything's awesome. Everyone plays the same music over and over again, and everyone loves it. Everyone, destroys the buildings that they do for the day and then build them up again. The whole world just goes on and on like that, under the ruling of President Business, voiced by Will Ferrell. he is in charge of everything, except for the fact that there are these kind of renegades of the city that are looking for the piece of resistance, which is some mysterious block which somehow the main character manages to find in his possession. Because of that, he's then being pursued by the police, amongst them Good Cop, Bad Cop, played by Liam Neeson. And you have them sort of being led by Vitruvius, the seer in the movie, voiced by Morgan Freeman. Yes, seriously, the real Morgan Freeman. And it's all about the whole thing of them coming together and trying to sort of escape, sort of as they're being chased, in order to find the piece of resistance and find out what it does, in order so they can stop the maniacal, evil President Business from doing what he's doing, which his plan is to stick everything together and sort of glue everything in place. Here's a clip.
Go where we can't be found.
Maybe we could go underwater?
What if we went underwater?
Great idea, babe. Thank you, Batman. Your ideas are the best.
But hey, I just said that.
We could build a submarine.
Bat submarine patent pending.
With the rainbows.
And dream catchers in case we take a nap.
Like an underwater spaceship.
But you can't build all of them at once.
Ready? Break.
Okay.
These are the colors I need. Blue raspberry and sour apple.
If anybody has black parts, I need them, okay? I only work in black. And sometimes very, very dark gray.
Use the yellow bricks.
You guys, can I help?
Oh, it has to be this way. No, I need that.
Where is he?
Anyone know what this is, and do you need it?
I think we could use wings and rocket boosters.
Ew, get your retro space stuff out of my area.
You guys, hey, just tell me exactly what to do and how to do it.
Emmett, don't worry about what the others are doing. You must embrace what is special about you.
So here's the thing with it. It's all about, there is this sort of ongoing storyline in it, which I won't say what it is, but it has this thing that it goes over to it actually has a message in the film that you get into more and more as the film goes on and you come to the end of it. And the thing is that it's glorious. It really is. It's so fun. It's so ridiculous. We were just talking there during that clip and saying the fact that she was saying, what did you say? Say what you said, because you're basically spot on.
What?
That you put it on for the kids and you end up watching it.
Yeah, exactly. I thought you were talking about the Morgan Freeman fact.
Well, no, the Morgan Freeman, the whole thing is, which I didn't realise, is that this is his first animated film he's ever done.
Yep.
His first voice thing, which I can't believe that. I honestly can't believe that, but I think I remember someone else saying that before as well once. So
Me?
Yeah. Was it you? No.
Yes, I did it on Following the Nerd.
But the thing is that it's unbelievable how much fun. You would not honestly believe how much fun and stupid and enjoyable, and the little in-jokes in there that are not dirty in-jokes that you get in a film like this, because you had that with things like the Shrek movie had adult jokes mixed in there with the kids ones. This is just fun from start to beginning, loads of jokes in there that for adults and kids, and you honestly come out of it and you're going, I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the heck out of that. And as it is in the film, everything is awesome.
You did it again, you said, from start to beginning.
Well, I did it. I kind of did that opening, ending book thing, book ending.
Start to beginning is practically the same thing. You did that last week, but it's funny that when you said that. That's why I sort of like had a little chuckle to myself there. So I found that quite funny. But surprisingly, etc. Surprisingly, this is a film that both me and Andrew completely 100% agree on. Because this is a brilliant film. It's fantastic. I've seen it a few times, and every single time you watch it, you notice something else. You've got loads of characters in the movie, from Batman to just everything's thrown in, like even including the kitchen sink.
And it is one of the best Batman characters that they've ever done on the screen, because it's just so, he's so wrong but so right in the way he's portrayed.
Will Arnett does the voice, isn't it?
Yeah, he's just brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just the voiceover in it is brilliantly done, and you have to applaud Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, because they are two directors who know how to handle comedy properly, whether it be adult comedy in the 21-22 Jump Street series, or whether it be children's comedy in films like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs or this. They really know how to handle. That's why it's really annoying the fact that they're not doing Ghostbusters 3. Why not? They're the perfect pair to actually do Ghostbusters 3, and they're Marvel and a few of the comic book companies have been trying to get them to do a superhero film. I don't know if they'll be able to handle it.
You know who just thinking about that, who I would love to see them do for a Marvel film? I mean, it wouldn't be Marvel, it would be Fox. I would love to see them do Deadpool. They would get that so spot on, the adult humour and the darkness of it, and the way they can do humour, they would get that so spot on.
Yeah, and they would actually be able to make Ryan Reynolds act. So
don't knock the Reynolds. Don't start there.
Yeah, well, he hasn't been in very many good films. Let's just say that. But they'll actually be able to throw out the Green Hornet out of people's minds and say, "Yeah."
You mean the Green Lantern? Because the
Green Lantern, yes.
The Green Hornet was
Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen, yeah.
Yeah. So they'll be able to throw the Hornet and Lantern out of people's minds. So they'll be able to throw that out of people's minds and say that, yeah, he can act. So, yeah, I agree with you on the Deadpool front, because wasn't he supposedly rumoured to be playing Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds?
He did kind of play Deadpool in X-Men Origins, but the less said about that, the better, to be honest.
Yeah, so see, Ryan Reynolds is, yeah. But Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, they need a huge, massive pat on the back. They are really awesome. They embody the Lego movie brilliantly.
Yeah.
Right, next up.
Go on to your next movie.
Yeah, is The Stag. It's directed by John Butler. This is a small little Irish film. Very simple premise. It centres around Hugh O'Connor's character, who plays Finon, which we'll play the clip in a second, where there is an annoying pronunciation with his name, but his name is Finon, even though it's spelled Fionnan. It's a very Irish name. And he's getting married.
Is that not? Well, I don't know if I should say this. Is that not another word?
No, wait until you actually hear the clip. His name is Finon, and so he's about to get married to Andrew Scott's character Davin's sister, and so he does not want to go on a stag. He does not believe in stag do's. His wife to be thinks it's best for him to go on a stag do. So Davin thinks, why don't we just get all of our friends together? Let's go on a camping trip. Unfortunately, they want to bring along the Machine, who's this guy who's really, really annoying, and he just shows them up no end. Here's a clip which explains Finon's name and how to pronounce it.
I haven't shown her yet, so it's a big surprise. Okay. So please don't give the game away.
Absolutely. I tell you what, a little bit pressed for time because we've got to go through the name cards and the menu font, so...
Here it is.
Did you make this?
I'm a theatre set designer.
Okay, that is an enormous relief.
So what do you think, Linda?
What I think? Wow, Finon.
Actually, it's Finon.
Oh, I'm sorry. Finon.
One more time, Linda. Finon.
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 On.
On. On. Finon.
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 Thank you.
Yep. See, told you it's Finon.
Finon.
Yeah, Finon.
Finon.
Yeah, Finon.
Oh, I'm getting tired.
Yeah, I know. But the rest of the film is just centered around them and the hijinks that happens to them in the wilderness. Specifically, there is a lot of nudity. They lose their clothes a lot. And it's just them bonding, and a few secrets come out during their bonding. And that's about it. The film itself is actually quite funny, surprisingly. It's got some really good humour in it. It's not gross-out humour, but it is actually surprisingly funny. The Machine, who's played by Peter MacDonald, he's the annoying character, but obviously during the movie, you might as well say he has an epiphany. And you grow to like the character, but you like all the characters in the film. It's acted quite well. It's a small-budget movie, but... There is some decent humour in there. I laughed a few times. Surprisingly, I laughed more than 4 times. So it passes the 4 laugh test, in my opinion. It's not like an out-and-out really funny film. Like, sorry to keep constantly mentioning this, 22 Jump Street, but it is still quite enjoyable, surprisingly.
I'm quite surprised again. There's a comedy that you liked.
Yeah, I say watch it. You should be able to get it on DVD for about £8. But watch it. It is a funny film. I quite liked it.
Okay, I shall have to try and see it. It sounds as if it might actually be in the top 10 next week then.
I hope so, because it didn't do as well at the UK box office because it was one of those weird stagnant releases. It was released in Ireland first, obviously with it being an Irish movie. Then it was released over here, but when it was released over here, it was released on very few screens, like Grabbers was. So it's annoying that happened, but I hope it's in the top 10 because it deserves it.
Okay, I'm going to try and explain the Zero Theorem, which is a film by Terry Gilliam. And the reason I say try is because you can't really explain anything successfully that's a Terry Gilliam film. It is a very weird film, and it's kind of one of these... The way that, if you've seen anything by Terry Gilliam, you know how he does weirdness in his films. Everything's kind of out of place and wacky and doesn't quite fit in with what you know to be the real world. In this world, that you have the main character played by Christoph Waltz, who plays Quohen Leith, which is it's a case of that he is a man who refers to himself in the third person. He has an issue where he's working for a company. He's kind of a software hacker, manufacturer, writer who analyzes things for this company and then he feeds it back to them and they give him a new puzzle to try and do. He's been sent on a mission by his employer, who is played by a small little cameo by Matt Damon, to get him to unlock the Zero Theorem, which is supposedly going to explain and understand human existence. But along the way, he kind of finds himself, he's a bit of not agoraphobe, I can't think of the word. Someone who's always ill, thinks they're always ill, is freaking out about things. And so he's trying to sort it out so that he can arrange to get a deal with them whereby he can continue doing his work, which he likes to do and he wants to do, but if he can do it from home. Here's a clip.
Owen left. Oncological Research Division requesting a disability leave.
Or reassignment to work at home.
That's management's decision, Miss Left. We only deal with health issues here. What seems to be the problem?
We're dying.
Who's we?
Us. Ourselves.
But there's only one of you.
So it would appear.
The subject has undergone 5 physicals the last year. He's healthy as a horse.
Our hair has fallen out.
Perfectly normal.
According to your file, you're the most productive number cruncher in your unit.
Entity crunchers. We work with esoteric data that have a life on their own. And are substantially more complex than numbers.
In the experience of this board, dying people are really so productive.
Nevertheless, we're dying.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
We're not.
Yes, we are.
Not.
So, the thing with the Zero Theorem is that it is typically Gilliam. You have got Christoph Waltz there, who Christoph Waltz he can do just about anything fantastic, and it's brilliant. I mean, except for the Green Hornet, which it was an awful film, and he was in it. In this, he is good, but it's very quirky and weird, and not necessarily going to be to everyone's taste, as will be the majority of the film. And there's a great deal of it that kind of, not in a bad way, but it has this kind of mundaneness to it that you find with Terry Gilliam's films, where you're kind of sitting there and it looks like it's mundane, but it's not. You're just kind of sitting there and it's going through the motions, but there's a lot going on. So it's kind of a bit of an oxymoron film. And I kind of liked it, but really kind of didn't fully understand it. And I don't think that's because of any problem with it that I wasn't paying attention, because this is when I saw it at the cinema and I was watching it and following it, but then it kind of didn't make sense as the more and more it went on and kind of fell apart. And I think that is its problem, is that it's trying to be weird for the sake of it being weird, just for weirdness sake, which is, I know
I'm confused.
Really,
my head's hurting.
Exactly. And that's the point of it. You kind of watch it, you come out at the end, you go, eh? What? And you kind of go, I liked it, but what?
I don't know why I liked it.
Yeah, because it has this kind of charm to it and this weirdness, especially with the character of Christoph Waltz as Conan Leth, and these other characters that pop up. You have his boss is played by David Thewlis, who's always great. I do love David Thewlis. He's not got a big part in this, but he's got this weirdness to him in the film as well. Matt Damon's little cameo bit as the management of the company is just so weird. You have in there, you have Tilda Swinton, who plays a small role. You have quite.
I love Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, and she's in a very it's kind of an almost unrecognisable role, same as there was in Grand Budapest Hotel. You
And snort piercers.
Yeah, in that clip there you heard Peter Stormare, who plays the little doctor in a small cameo, and it's a very weird. You go, hang on a minute, that's Peter Stormare, and it's got all these moments from it, which kind of doesn't help it because you kind of taken out going, oh wait, is that this? Is this person? And that doesn't help it. But I enjoyed it because of that quirkiness and that weirdness, even though I honestly didn't get it entirely and didn't quite get what was going on, and I got lost with it. So I got lost, but I enjoyed it.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to try and explain it.
Okay, then. I'll go on to my next film, and then you won't have to explain it then, will you?
Yeah. Well, I can't. I will be here all night, literally.
Yeah, please don't. After the Dark. This is ironically considering that it is dark. While we're recording this live anyway. It's directed by John Huddles. And this is it's also known as The Philosophers, which if you watch the trailer for it, you can definitely gather why it's called The Philosophers. When I play the clip, you'll gather why it's called The Philosophers. And it centers around a group of students who take philosophy, led by the teacher, Mr. Zimmett, who's played by James Darcy. And they've just come to the end of their course. Well, I might as well play the clip now, actually, because it does set it up.
So here we are. At the end of it all. I've done what I can for you. Now you have to go out and think on your own. Time to fly or die.
Still defending Aristotle, Mr. Zimmett. Up or down. 0 or 1. True or false. Fly or die.
You're a slave to binary logic. You know that?
Logic being?
The science of reason.
Or more precisely?
The power of the mind to form judgments based on strict principles of validity.
Logic. Remains after 10,000 years of the human experience the best way to get through the day.
Though it still doesn't do much for you at night.
Oh, right. I read a great line in bed last night. I was going to mention this. Philosophy is to real life as masturbation is to sex.
At least you're reading.
That brings up an interesting point, though, whether philosophy makes any difference to how people actually live. I mean, Mr. Zimmett, would you say that most people who never study philosophy do okay in life?
I couldn't give a monkey's whether most people do okay in life. I mean, according to whose vapid credo is doing okay, the definition of a meaningful existence. And if we really want to talk about most people are waddling through their days, stuffing cheese puffs down their gullets. Most people are so mush-brained, they have no hope of solving the intricate problems they come up against as adult human beings. Most people by the age of 40 have turned into blubbering nutters. At least on the inside. Fortunately, you're not. Most people.
It just kind of sounds very much like sort of Zero Theorem and very twisty and not making a lot of sense and very... Eh?
Well, I'll get onto that in a moment, but you've got the kids in the class, you've got 21 of them, and some of the people who play in that, you've got Sophie Lowe, Daryl Saber, who was in Spy Kids, Freddie Stromer, who was in the Harry Potter series, Reese Wakefield, who was in The Purge, who played the evil guy in The Purge, Bonnie Wright, who was also in the Harry Potter series, Jacob Artist, who was in Glee. So sort of like more up-and-coming actors, younger actors, etc. I know I used the etc. thing. Damn it! I promise next week's show I won't say it once.
I'm going to get like some kind of long-range buzzer thing hooked up so that like every time you say it, I can give you like an electric shock.
Yeah, I know. I promise I won't say it anymore tonight. What it is, the film itself is a premise where each one of the people in the class has been given a role. They pick it out from a box, and they have to decide which 10 people from the class, regarding their role, survives during a nuclear apocalypse. They get to survive inside of a bunker for 1 year, and at the end of that year, they come out and find out what's actually happened. And so that's played 3 times, and so in the first time, the usual people will get selected. So if you were a doctor, if you were able to cook, things like that. In the second year, it gets changed around a little bit. And in the third year, it fully gets flipped on its head by the characters who weren't put in the bunker in the first 2 years. They get put into the bunker for the third time. And so during each one of them, though, the teacher, Mr. Zimmett, he plays sort of like the mysterious guy. Nobody knows what his role is. And the first year, he shoots one of the members just so he can get into the bunker. The second year, he does exactly the same before the member can actually read out what their role is. And in the third year, he ultimately tries to persuade everybody that the people who are going into the bunker is wrong. And so it's all about philosophy. It's all about that dichotomy, whether the people you choose, the 10 people you choose, are the right 10 people to be able to carry on the human race, if you don't know if the human race has managed to survive after the year of the nuclear apocalypse has happened. So that's it. That is the film itself. At times it works. At times it just gets dragged upon its premise. The premise is an interesting one. And by doing it 3 times, it dilutes the premise, because the second time when it does it, it feels very much like the first time. It only takes a few little characters, because when they flip over their card, they've got ulterior sides to their characters. So, for instance, one guy, he is a stay-at-home person, so all he does, he looks after his children. Yet, in a previous job that he had, he used to be in the army. So then you need to think, is he a good person to use with the 2 roles that he's been given? And so it feels very much the same when the first year to the second year. With the third year, that's when it feels slightly different again, because then it explores the characters who never got a chance. And so you've got 2 homosexual characters, and whether it is a good idea to take 2 homosexual characters into a bunker when you need actually to repopulate, supposedly. And so it has some good ideas, but it never fully follows through with the ideas. The film itself just becomes a bit too boring. It never becomes interesting enough to keep you involved with the characters, especially with them being 21 of them. So you only think, oh, I need to latch myself onto that character, and that's it. You forget about the rest of them. And the film itself, because it has so many characters, it shouldn't have been like that. So it's okay for what it is, but it could have been much better under smarter directors' hands.
Okay.
And if I haven't confused anybody, then well done.
You have. I'm just kind of going. After thinking about Zero Theorem again, I just don't want to think about something like that anymore right now. Yeah, my head's just going to explode.
My head explodes. Exploded anew. So,
my last movie we've got this evening is The Employer, which is it's a psychological thriller. It's weird to say, but it starts off with scenes where several characters are all being interviewed one by one by Malcolm McDowell, who appears in the film as a character. They're all being interviewed for this potential job at a company. It's not really explained what it is, but they're all sort of questioned on the limits of what they would do for the company in this kind of weird way that Malcolm McDowell does. It also then jumps ahead to a certain point where 5 people wake up in a room, sealed in, the door is locked, there is this weird sort of forelock on the door, and none of them sort of knows how they got there or what's going on. They've all sort of been interviewed for this job, and there is a phone there which one of them tries to call the police, but when that happens they get a call in return, which is it's Malcolm McDowell's character telling them to put them on speaker. Here's a clip.
I must warn you that involving the authorities in any way is strictly against the rules, not to mention useless. As I assure you, that phone is quite untraceable, and is pre-programmed to only allow a total of 5 outgoing calls, of which you now have 4 left. This was meant as a courtesy to your loved ones, so choose your remaining calls wisely.
Who are you?
I'm the one who's been interviewing you all week. Yeah, all of you.
What do you want from us?
Are any of you familiar with the sand tiger shark? It's native to the waters of Australia and one of the most fascinating creatures on the planet. Not only for its legendary fierceness, but also because of its unique means of reproduction. When this particular shark becomes pregnant, she conceives a half-dozen offspring, all together in the same womb. So the pups are forced to feed off each other in order to survive. We at Kacharius want the same killer instinct for our employees. From our interview process, we've determined that you're all qualified to join us, but there's only room for one, the one who walks out of that door. As you can see, it has 4 combination locks. When this call is over, you'll want to keep that phone handy, because when one of you expires, I will call back with the first set of digits, which will open the first of the 4 locks.
So, the thing with The Employer is this. It's okay. It has moments in it that are brilliant. Malcolm McDowell is fantastic. He's very cunningly evil, as you can imagine, as he does very good in most of his performances. The 5 actors you have in the film are not particularly brilliant. There are moments where you kind of... It's not great acting. There's moments where it's okay. You have a bit as well where Billy Zane makes an appearance. And he even gets the "and Billy Zane" title. And the thing is, it's not bad and it's fairly enjoyable because of the fact that there's some twists and turns, some of which I saw, some of which I didn't. I kind of, though, have seen it all before. You've seen it in lots of things. I mean, especially at moments I was reminded, the setup of it reminded me of things like Exam, which is a small film as well. There's another small film called The Killing Room, which is all sort of the same situation. It's kind of merging ideas and bits and details from the two of those. And also, oddly enough, without the gore, but it kind of takes elements from Saw. And it's this kind of thing of that these people being trapped in a situation and you find out what people are made of, who's the good guys, who's the bad guys, who crumbles and who does what, and who's willing to do what is necessary and such. And that's kind of where it has its strength. And it's okay. I enjoyed it. It's not anything that I think is going to be, amazing, should be on the release in the cinema because people go and see it, hundreds of people. It is a small art house sort of film, but it's one that deserves a little bit of recognition because it kind of puts itself together well. It shows itself well, and it does a fairly good enough job. It's just that it's not bringing anything massively new to the table, which is a shame because it's nice, solid, just unimaginative with some of the elements that it has. It could have done things a bit differently, but it didn't. It did them okay. It could have done them worse. It didn't. It did them okay. So I have nothing against it. I had a few misgivings afterwards, going, I would have done it differently.
Sounds like a film I should watch because I really liked Exam, and The Killing Room is a really good film.
It is. It's very, very good. And this, I wouldn't say necessarily this is to the level of The Killing Room in the level of the mystery and of the terror that you have, because there's some of The Killing Room is really, really terror inspiring,
and it's got Nick Cannon in it. So.
Yeah. But this is not. That's to say this doesn't have merit, but this is kind of retreading that ground and doing it to a lesser extent.
Yeah.
So that's it for this week's Monday Movie Show. Thank you for listening. We hope you've had fun listening to us rattling on a bit late. We're both a bit tired. It's been a very hot day, so we've been a bit not at our best, I think. TV movies of the week. Do you want to go first with yours? Because you've got more than one. I've just got one. I've got a very weird one.
I've got 2 very typical ones, actually, and we've mentioned one a few times, so again, sorry. But tomorrow night, so that's Tuesday the 22nd at 10:50 p.m, is Aliens.
Because they've been doing... We've obviously gone into it tonight, but the Aliens was on literally now.
Yeah.
And Alien 3 is on Wednesday after.
Yes.
So...
And my other film is 21 Jump Street, which is on 5-star. So any mention of the channel 5-star is always good. On Thursday the 24th at 9 o'clock. So you can either watch that or listen to Following the Nerd.
Yeah, well, you can watch that, and then after you've seen that, because it's still out and still showing in the cinema, still doing well, go and see 22 Jump Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good double bill you there for you there over a couple of days. My TV movie that I've got, and this is a very old one, but it's a film called The Last Mimsy. It's a kids' film. It's on 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday 26th on Film 4. And it's a weird one where it's basically kids find this toy and it's been sent back from the future to try and save humanity because of something apocalyptic happening in the future. And it's a thing that I saw at some point a little while ago on Film 4, because it's not the first time it's been shown. And honestly, I watched it and I found myself sort of sitting there watching it, and then I got into it and I watched the whole thing before I knew it, and I wasn't intending to. And that's always a good sign. If you start watching something, you're not any idea what it's about or not getting into it, and then you go, well, hang on a minute, and before you know it, you've watched the whole thing. That's a sign of something that grabs you and does pretty good. I'm not saying it's fantastic, but I was enthralled with it. So it's a kids' film, but it's a pretty good, enjoyable kids film. A little bit these predictable kids things, but fun. So, before we finish up, some shout-outs to people we regularly do. We have our website, mondaymovieshow.co.uk. You can also check us on Facebook, facebook.com/Monday Movie Show. You can reach us on Twitter, @Monday Movie Show. You can reach Stuart, @Cryptic Tadpole. Reach myself, @AHDVD. And please feel free to check out followingthenerd.com. You have From Page to Screen with the number 2.com. That's Stuart, who we will have to see about, speaking to him about the football. Was it the Hooligan Factory? Football Hooligan Factory? Yes.
The Hooligan Factory.
Hooligan Factory, yeah. Because that's managed to make its way into the top 10 and probably worth checking out because he's been cheering it on all week. Also, please check out the charity we do like to support, Seren Foundation, which is SEREN foundation.org.uk. And if you can, donate to them and help them out. So, that's it for this week's show. I think we've covered everything so far except for Movie of the Week.
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Of course, and I agree entirely on that. So, which is a rare thing. So, take it as being there's definitely something to it. If you haven't seen the first one, get hold of it. It's not expensive to buy it secondhand, or it will probably be shown again on Channel 4 or Film 4 at some point because they showed it just last week. So, until next week, when we'll be reviewing, amongst other things, you have the new Hercules movie. There's also
Purge Anarchy.
The Purge Anarchy, which you're looking forward to, I know in particular.
Sure.
And then the week after that, we have a little Marvel film called Guardians of the Galaxy, which we are going to leave you with a clip right now. So, until next week, it's bye-bye from me.
And it's Sunday, which is still be on then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Drop it.
Hey.
Drop it now!
Hey, cool, man. No problem. No problem at all.
How do you know about this?
I don't even know what that is. I'm just a junker, man. I was just checking stuff out.
You don't look like a junker. You're wearing rabbit to go.
It's just the outfit, man. Ninja Turtle, you better stop poking me.
What is your name?
My name is Peter Quill, okay? Dude, chill out.
Move!
Why?
Ronan may have questions for you.
Hey, you know what? There's another name you might know me by. Star-Lord.
Who?
Star-Lord, man. Legendary outlaw. Guys?
Move!
I forget this.